The infinite hotel paradox. Imagine this. You're standing outside a grand, sprawling hotel late at night. The sign above the entrance reads, "The Infinite Hotel." You step inside, and the lobby is bustling with activity. Every room in the hotel, every single one, is occupied. There isn't an empty bed to be found. Yet, as you approach the front desk, the concierge greets you warmly and says, "No problem, we'll find you a room." How is this possible? Surely if every room is full, there's no space left for new guests. But here's the twist. This isn't just any ordinary hotel, it's infinite. This thought experiment, known as the infinite hotel paradox, was proposed by the German mathematician David Hilbert in the early 20th century. It's not merely a clever riddle or a playful puzzle, it's a profound exploration of infinity, a concept that challenges our intuition, defies conventional logic, and forces us to rethink everything we think we know about limits and capacity. Before we dive into the mechanics of how this paradox works, let's take a moment to appreciate why it matters. What does infinity mean, really? Is it just a mathematical abstraction, or does it have implications for the universe we live in? To understand the infinite hotel paradox, we first need to grasp what infinity actually means. Infinity isn't just a very large number, it's something entirely different. In mathematics, infinity represents a quantity that has no end, no boundary, no limit. Unlike finite numbers, which can be counted or measured, infinity cannot be fully comprehended because it stretches beyond our ability to conceptualize. Think of it like trying to imagine the edge of the universe. Not only is it far away, but it might not even exist. Now back to the hotel. Picture the infinite hotel as having an endless series of rooms, numbered sequentially, room 1, room 2, room 3, and so on, without stopping. Each room is occupied by a guest. At first glance, this seems straightforward enough. The hotel is full. But then, a new traveler arrives at midnight, tired and desperate for a place to stay. What happens next defies common sense. The concierge doesn't panic. Instead, they announce over the intercom, "Attention, guests. Please move to the next room. If you're in room 1, please relocate to room 2. If you're in room 2, go to room 3. And so forth. Everyone complies, shuffling down the hallways to their new accommodations. Remarkably, after this shift, room 1 becomes vacant, and the newcomer happily checks in. At this point, you might be scratching your head. How can moving everyone down one room create an opening when the hotel was supposedly full? The key lies in the nature of infinity. In a finite hotel, if there were, say, 100 rooms, you couldn't add anyone once all 100 were occupied. But in an infinite hotel, adding or removing occupants doesn't change the fact that there are infinitely many rooms available. By shifting each guest to the next room, the hotel effectively frees up room 1 without ever running out of space. But wait, it gets stranger. Let's say an entire busload of travelers pulls up to the hotel, carrying an infinite number of passengers. Surely, now the hotel must turn them away, right? Wrong. Once again, the concierge calmly instructs the current guests to double their room numbers. So, the person in room 1 moves to room 2, the person in room 2 moves to room 4, the person in room 3 moves to room 6, and so on. This leaves all the odd-numbered rooms free, an infinite number of them, to accommodate the newcomers. This process demonstrates one of the most counterintuitive properties of infinity. It can remain unchanged even when altered. Adding or subtracting elements from an infinite set doesn't diminish its size. To put it another way, infinity plus 1, or infinity plus infinity, still equals infinity. This behavior flies in the face of our everyday experience, where resources are limited and actions have consequences. In the world of infinity, however, rules operate differently. So, why should we care about the infinite hotel paradox? Beyond its surface-level intrigue, it raises profound questions about the nature of reality itself. For starters, consider the implications for our understanding of the universe. Could the cosmos be infinite, much like the hotel? If so, what would that mean for the distribution of matter, energy, and life within it? One possibility is that an infinite universe could contain infinite versions of you. Imagine countless parallel realities, each slightly different from the last. In one version of your life, you chose a different career path. In another, you never met your best friend. In yet another, you decided against watching this video tonight. All these variations, and infinitely more, are theoretically possible if the universe is infinite. While this idea might sound comforting, after all, somewhere out there, a version of you is living your dream life. It also introduces unsettling philosophical dilemmas. If infinite versions of you exist, which one is the real you? Or do all versions share equal validity? Moreover, the paradox highlights the limitations of human cognition when confronted with infinity. Our brains evolved to deal with finite quantities, countable objects, measurable distances, predictable patterns. Infinity disrupts these frameworks, forcing us to confront concepts that resist easy comprehension. Is infinity a useful tool for understanding the universe, or is it fundamentally beyond our grasp? Some philosophers argue that infinity is inherently paradoxical, a logical contradiction wrapped in mathematical elegance. Others see it as a gateway to deeper truths about existence, inviting us to expand our mental horizons. On a personal level, the infinite hotel paradox encourages reflection on themes of scarcity and abundance. In daily life, we often perceive resources, time, money, opportunities, as limited. We stress over missed chances and worry about running out of options. But infinity reminds us that some things defy depletion. Love, creativity, curiosity, these qualities may not be bound by the same constraints as physical goods. Perhaps embracing infinity as a metaphor can help us cultivate gratitude for what we have and openness to what lies ahead. As fascinating as the infinite hotel paradox is, it only scratches the surface of existential mysteries. Infinity stretches endlessly, yes, but what happens when we try to measure something even more elusive than space or quantity? What about time itself? Is it linear, flowing steadily from past to future? Or could it be something else entirely, a static, four-dimensional structure where every moment exists simultaneously? Let's dive deeper into another mind-bending phenomenon, the block universe theory. This concept suggests that time isn't a river rushing forward but rather a frozen landscape, with all events, past, present, and future, existing eternally. Just as the infinite hotel challenged our assumptions about capacity, the block universe theory will challenge our perception of temporality. Prepare to rethink everything you thought you knew about the passage of time. Take a moment to reflect on the infinite possibilities around you. Are you ready to explore the next layer of the unknown? The block universe theory. Imagine you're standing in a vast, quiet library. The shelves stretch infinitely in all directions, filled with books that contain every detail of your life, every thought, every action, every moment. Each book is labeled with a timestamp: January 1st, 2023, 9:15 a.m., June 4th, 2037, 3:02 p.m., and so on. You could pull any book from the shelf and read about what happened at that exact moment, or even flip to a page describing something that hasn't occurred yet but will. Sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Yet this analogy captures the essence of the block universe theory, a concept rooted in Einstein's theory of relativity and one of the most mind-bending ideas in modern physics. The block universe theory suggests that time isn't a flowing river carrying us inexorably from past to future. Instead, time is more akin to space, a four-dimensional structure where past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. To understand how this works, let's delve into its origins, implications, and the profound questions it raises about existence itself. To grasp the block universe theory, we first need to break free from our intuitive understanding of time as a linear progression. From childhood, we're taught to think of time as a sequence. Yesterday came before today, which comes before tomorrow. This sense of temporal flow feels natural because it aligns with our subjective experience. We remember the past vividly, perceive the present acutely, and anticipate the future with curiosity or anxiety. But according to the block universe model, this perception is an illusion, a construct of human consciousness rather than an objective feature of reality. The foundation of the block universe theory lies in Albert Einstein's groundbreaking work on special and general relativity. In these theories, time is treated not as a separate entity but as part of a unified fabric called spacetime. Spacetime combines the three dimensions of space, length, width, height, with the fourth dimension of time into a single continuum. Just as points in space can be mapped using coordinates, events in spacetime are located by specifying their position in both space and time. For example, the event, you reading this sentence, has specific spatial coordinates, your location, and a temporal coordinate, the current moment. What makes the block universe theory so radical is its assertion that all points in spacetime exist equally, regardless of when they occur relative to us. To visualize this, imagine a loaf of bread sliced into thin pieces. Each slice represents a moment in time, while the entire loaf symbolizes the totality of spacetime. In the block universe view, the loaf exists all at once. Every slice is already baked and arranged. There's no distinction between the slices representing the past, present, or future. They're simply different parts of the same whole. This perspective fundamentally alters how we think about change and motion. In everyday life, we observe objects moving through space over time. A car drives down a street, a bird flies across the sky, a person walks from one room to another. But in the block universe framework, these movements aren't dynamic processes unfolding moment by moment. Instead, they're static patterns embedded within the four-dimensional structure of spacetime. The trajectory of the car, the flight path of the bird, and the steps of the person are all fixed lines stretching through spacetime, much like trails etched onto the surface of the loaf of bread. Einstein himself grappled with the philosophical consequences of his discoveries. Late in his life, he wrote to a grieving friend whose loved one had passed away, saying, "People like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." These words encapsulate the core insight of the block universe theory. Time doesn't flow, it simply is. Every moment, whether it occurred millennia ago or will happen billions of years in the future, occupies a fixed place in the grand tapestry of spacetime. If the block universe theory accurately describes reality, the implications are staggering. At first glance, the idea might seem abstract or detached from everyday concerns. After all, if time is an unchanging block, why should it matter to us living in the here and now? But upon closer examination, the theory challenges some of our deepest assumptions about identity, free will, mortality, and meaning. One of the most immediate consequences of the block universe model is the erosion of free will, or at least the traditional notion of it. If the future already exists alongside the past and present, then every decision we make, every action we take, and every outcome we experience is predetermined. Think back to the library metaphor. If someone else were to open the book labeled, Your Life, December 31st, 2045, they'd find a detailed account of everything you'll do on that day. This raises a troubling question. If the script of your life is already written, do you truly have control over your choices? Philosophers and scientists have debated this issue for decades. Some argue that determinism, the belief that all events are causally linked and therefore inevitable, is compatible with free will. They propose that freedom lies not in altering the course of events but in acting according to our desires and intentions. Others reject this compromise, insisting that true free will requires the ability to shape the future in ways that aren't preordained. Either way, the block universe casts doubt on the comforting assumption that we're masters of our own destinies. Another unsettling implication concerns death. In the conventional view of time, death marks the end of conscious experience, a final curtain call after which nothing remains. But in the block universe framework, death is just another event embedded within spacetime. Your birth, your life, and your death all occupy fixed positions in the four-dimensional continuum. From this perspective, death isn't an endpoint so much as a coordinate, a specific point in the eternal loaf of bread. Does this realization diminish the terror of dying, knowing that your existence is forever inscribed in the fabric of reality? Or does it amplify it, suggesting that you're trapped in a timeless prison where escape is impossible? The block universe also forces us to reconsider the nature of memory and anticipation. Our brains create the illusion of temporal flow by organizing experiences into a coherent narrative. Memories allow us to recall the past, while imagination enables us to project ourselves into the future. But in the block universe, neither the past nor the future holds any special status. They're merely slices of the same immutable loaf. This raises fascinating questions about the role of consciousness. Is our sense of now purely subjective, a trick played by our minds to navigate the static landscape of spacetime? Or does it hint at something deeper, a mechanism that allows us to access particular moments within the block? Finally, the block universe theory invites reflection on the concept of meaning. Many people derive purpose from the belief that their actions shape the world and leave a lasting legacy. But if the future is already set, does striving toward goals still hold value? Perhaps the answer lies in embracing the present, not as a fleeting instant slipping away but as an enduring facet of the timeless whole. By focusing on the richness of each moment, we can find fulfillment even in a universe where time stands still. As profound as the block universe theory is, it leaves us with a lingering question. If time is fixed and the future predetermined, what becomes of free will? Are our choices genuinely ours, or are they dictated by forces beyond our control? To explore this tension further, let's turn our attention to the paradox of free will. This age-old conundrum examines whether human agency is real or illusory, and what that means for morality, responsibility, and the essence of being human. Breathe deeply, feel the weightlessness of time slipping away. Though the block universe may seem cold and impersonal, it reminds us to cherish the fleeting beauty of the present moment. Now, prepare to confront the mysteries of choice and destiny. The paradox of free will. Imagine standing at a crossroads in the middle of a dense forest. One path leads to a sunlit meadow, while the other winds into shadowy woods. You pause for a moment, weighing your options. Finally, you choose the sunny path. It feels like a deliberate decision, your choice made freely. But what if, unbeknownst to you, every factor leading up to that moment had already determined which way you'd go? What if your genes, upbringing, memories, and even the subtle sway of the breeze conspired to nudge you toward the meadow? Would it still feel like free will? This tension between autonomy and determinism lies at the heart of the paradox of free will. On one hand, we experience life as a series of choices. What to eat for breakfast, whom to trust, how to spend our time. These decisions seem to stem from within us, from our desires, values, and reasoning. Yet on the other hand, science and philosophy suggest that our actions may not be as independent as they appear. Determinism posits that everything we do is the inevitable result of prior causes stretching back through history, while quantum mechanics introduces an element of randomness that complicates matters further. Together, these ideas challenge the very notion of free will, and by extension, our sense of agency, morality, and identity. To understand the paradox of free will, we must first define what free will means. At its core, free will refers to the ability to make choices that are genuinely ours, not dictated by external forces or predetermined outcomes. When you decide to order pizza instead of pasta, you assume that the decision originated with you, uncoerced and uninfluenced by anything outside your conscious control. This belief underpins much of human society, from legal systems, which hold individuals accountable for their actions, to personal relationships, where trust hinges on mutual respect for each other's autonomy. However, this intuitive understanding of free will clashes with two major schools of thought: determinism and indeterminism. Determinism argues that every event, including human behavior, is the result of preceding causes. Think of dominoes falling in sequence. Once the first domino tips over, the rest follow inexorably. In a deterministic universe, your actions are shaped by a chain reaction of factors beyond your control: your genetic makeup, environmental influences, cultural conditioning, and even random chance. From this perspective, free will is an illusion. Your choices are preordained by the interplay of countless variables. Indeterminism, meanwhile, challenges determinism by introducing uncertainty into the equation. Quantum mechanics, the branch of physics governing subatomic particles, reveals that some events occur randomly and unpredictably. For example, when an electron jumps from one energy level to another, there's no way to determine exactly when it will happen. It simply does. While this randomness might sound liberating, it actually undermines the concept of free will rather than supporting it. If your decisions are influenced by chaotic quantum fluctuations, then they're no more under your control than if they were determined by prior causes. The paradox arises because neither determinism nor indeterminism leaves room for the kind of free will most people imagine. Determinism strips away autonomy by rendering all actions inevitable, while indeterminism replaces intentionality with randomness. Either way, the idea of making meaningful, self-directed choices begins to crumble. Philosophers have grappled with this dilemma for centuries, proposing various models to reconcile free will with scientific principles. Some advocate compatibilism, which argues that free will and determinism can coexist. According to this view, freedom doesn't require complete independence from causation. Rather, it entails acting in accordance with your own desires and motivations. Others embrace libertarianism, which insists that humans possess true free will despite the constraints of physics. Still others adopt hard determinism, rejecting free will altogether and viewing human behavior as entirely mechanistic. Each approach offers a different lens through which to interpret the paradox, but none provides a definitive resolution. Instead, the debate continues to evolve as new insights emerge from fields like neuroscience, psychology, and artificial intelligence. If free will is indeed an illusion, the implications ripple outward, affecting nearly every aspect of human existence. Consider morality, for instance. Most ethical frameworks rely on the assumption that individuals are responsible for their actions. If someone steals, cheats, or harms another person, we hold them accountable because we believe they chose to act immorally. But if their behavior was predetermined by genetics, environment, or quantum randomness, can we still blame them? Would punishment serve any purpose other than deterrence or rehabilitation? Take the criminal justice system as an example. Courts operate on the premise that offenders exercise free will when committing crimes. Sentencing guidelines reflect this belief, assigning penalties based on the severity of the offense and the intent behind it. However, if free will is non-existent, then punishing someone for wrongdoing becomes ethically dubious. After all, how can you fault a person for doing something they couldn't help but do? This line of reasoning has led some reformers to advocate for restorative justice practices that focus less on retribution and more on addressing root causes of crime, such as poverty, trauma, and lack of education. Beyond morality, the absence of free will calls into question the nature of personal responsibility. If your decisions are shaped by forces beyond your control, should you feel pride for your achievements or guilt for your failures? Imagine graduating at the top of your class after years of hard work. You might attribute your success to discipline and perseverance. But if those traits were inherited or instilled in you by your upbringing, do you truly deserve credit? Conversely, if someone struggles with addiction or unemployment, should they bear the full weight of shame if their circumstances stemmed from factors outside their influence? The paradox of free will also touches on existential questions about meaning and purpose. Many people derive fulfillment from setting goals and striving toward them, believing that their efforts shape the outcome. But if the future is fixed or governed by random chance, does effort matter? Would ambition lose its luster if we knew our paths were predetermined or arbitrary? Alternatively, could embracing the lack of control bring peace, allowing us to focus on enjoying the journey rather than obsessing over the destination? On a broader scale, the paradox raises concerns about artificial intelligence and consciousness. As machines grow increasingly sophisticated, capable of mimicking human decision-making processes, where do we draw the line between programmed responses and genuine autonomy? Could AI ever possess free will, or would its actions always be constrained by its programming? And if so, what does that say about our own capacity for free will, given that our brains are essentially biological computers? Finally, consider the emotional toll of grappling with these ideas. Humans crave certainty and coherence. We want to believe that our lives are meaningful and that we play an active role in shaping them. Discovering that free will might be an illusion can feel destabilizing, akin to realizing that the ground beneath your feet is actually quicksand. Yet paradoxically, accepting this reality might offer a form of liberation. By letting go of the need to control everything, we open ourselves to experiencing life more fully, moment by moment. As we've seen, the paradox of free will challenges our understanding of autonomy, responsibility, and meaning. But what happens when we zoom out even further, to the nature of consciousness itself? Are we truly unique beings, distinguished by our capacity for thought and self-awareness? Or could consciousness extend beyond humans, and even beyond biology? In the next segment, we'll explore the simulation hypothesis, a provocative idea suggesting that reality as we know it might be nothing more than a highly advanced computer program. If true, what does this mean for our sense of self, and for the essence of existence? Let the question linger. Who, or what, is really steering your ship? Could it be that you're not just navigating the waters of fate but sailing through lines of code? Prepare to dive deeper into the mysteries of consciousness and reality. The simulation hypothesis. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you've ever experienced, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birds chirping outside your window, the taste of coffee on your tongue, isn't real. Instead, it's all part of an elaborate simulation, a hyper-realistic virtual world indistinguishable from what we call reality. This isn't the plot of a science fiction novel, it's a philosophical proposition known as the simulation hypothesis. First articulated by philosopher Nick Bostrom in 2003, this idea challenges us to reconsider the nature of existence itself. Could we be living inside a computer program? And if so, what does that mean for our sense of self, purpose, and meaning? At first glance, the simulation hypothesis might seem far-fetched or even absurd. After all, the world around us feels tangible, immediate, and undeniable. But as technology advances at an exponential rate, the line between reality and simulation begins to blur. Video games have evolved from pixelated sprites to photorealistic environments. Artificial intelligence can now generate text, images, and even entire conversations indistinguishable from human interaction. If we're capable of creating such intricate simulations today, what might future civilizations achieve? And if they could simulate entire universes, how would we know whether ours is one of them? To understand the simulation hypothesis, we must begin with Nick Bostrom's seminal argument. In his paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Bostrom presents a trilemma, a three-part scenario, at least one of which must be true. Almost all civilizations at our level of technological development go extinct before reaching the capability to create ancestor simulations. This possibility suggests that humanity may never reach the point where we can simulate conscious experiences because we'll destroy ourselves, or face some other existential catastrophe, before achieving that level of technological sophistication. If civilizations do reach the ability to create ancestor simulations, they choose not to run them. Perhaps advanced societies decide against simulating their ancestors due to ethical concerns, resource limitations, or lack of interest. In this case, the absence of simulated realities would simply reflect a deliberate choice. We are almost certainly living in a simulation. If civilizations frequently create ancestor simulations, or multiple simulations, then statistically speaking, the number of simulated beings vastly outweighs the number of base beings. Therefore, it's overwhelmingly likely that any given individual, including you and me, is part of a simulation rather than the original, non-simulated universe. The third option is the most provocative, as it implies that our perceived reality is artificial. To break this down further, consider the rapid pace of technological progress. Today, we can simulate complex systems like weather patterns, ecosystems, and even neural networks. As computing power increases, we move closer to the ability to simulate not just environments but entire minds. If future civilizations possess near-infinite computational resources, they could potentially create billions, or trillions, of simulated worlds, each populated by sentient beings who believe they're living in base reality. From this perspective, the odds tilt heavily in favor of us being simulated. Think about it. If there's only one base reality but countless simulations, the probability that you're in the original version becomes vanishingly small. It's akin to flipping a coin 1,000,000,000,000 times and betting that it will land heads every single time. Mathematically, it's possible, but astronomically unlikely. But how would such a simulation work? One possibility is that it operates on principles similar to modern video games, rendering only the parts of the environment that are directly observed. For example, when you're playing a game, distant landscapes often remain low resolution until you approach them. Similarly, a simulated universe might optimize its processing power by focusing on areas of relevance to its inhabitants while leaving the rest undefined. This could explain certain quirks of quantum mechanics, such as particles behaving differently when observed, as though the act of observation triggers the simulation to render those details. Another intriguing aspect of the hypothesis is the role of consciousness. If we're simulated, does that mean our thoughts, emotions, and subjective experiences are also artificially generated? Or could consciousness transcend the boundaries of simulation, existing independently of the code that governs our physical world? These questions lead us into uncharted philosophical territory, forcing us to confront the nature of mind and matter. The implications of the simulation hypothesis are profound and multifaceted, touching on nearly every domain of human inquiry. At its core, the hypothesis forces us to grapple with existential questions. What does it mean to exist? Do our lives hold value if they're merely constructs within a digital framework? And who, or what, is responsible for creating this simulated reality? Let's start with the question of meaning. Many people derive purpose from the belief that their actions have consequences, that they're shaping the world in meaningful ways. But if we're living in a simulation, does anything we do truly matter? Consider the analogy of a video game character. From the player's perspective, the character's choices are significant because they affect the outcome of the game. However, from the character's perspective, if it had one, those choices might feel arbitrary, knowing that the ultimate narrative is controlled by an external force. Does this analogy apply to us? Are our joys, sorrows, triumphs, and failures meaningful only within the context of the simulation, or do they carry weight beyond it? This leads to another unsettling implication: the identity of the simulator. If we're part of a simulation, who programmed it? Was it a benevolent creator seeking to explore the depths of consciousness? A curious scientist running experiments on artificial life forms? Or perhaps a bored teenager tinkering with a futuristic gaming console? The possibilities range from comforting to chilling, depending on your perspective. Some proponents of the hypothesis suggest that the simulators may resemble gods in traditional religious frameworks, omnipotent beings overseeing the workings of their creation. Others argue that the simulator need not be intelligent or intentional at all. It could be an emergent property of a sufficiently advanced AI system operating autonomously. Discovering the truth about our simulated status poses yet another dilemma. Would knowledge of our artificial origins liberate us or drive us mad? On one hand, understanding that we're part of a simulation could free us from existential dread. If death is merely the termination of a program, perhaps there's no reason to fear it. On the other hand, confronting the fact that our lives are scripted by unseen architects might plunge us into despair, undermining our sense of agency and autonomy. Imagine learning that every decision you've ever made was preordained by lines of code. How would you reconcile that revelation with your lived experience? Ethics also come into play. If we're living in a simulation, does that absolve us of moral responsibility? After all, if our actions are predetermined or irrelevant to the broader scheme, why bother striving to do good? Conversely, some argue that recognizing our simulated nature could inspire greater compassion. Knowing that others share our predicament might foster empathy and cooperation, encouraging us to treat each other with kindness regardless of the underlying framework. Finally, the simulation hypothesis raises practical questions about the limits of our perception. If we're immersed in a simulated reality, how can we discern the difference between the real and the artificial? Could glitches in the simulation provide clues? Or are we too deeply embedded in the system to notice discrepancies? These uncertainties leave us in a state of epistemological limbo, unable to verify or refute the hypothesis definitively. While the simulation hypothesis invites us to ponder the nature of reality, it also underscores the vastness of the cosmos, even if that cosmos is itself a construct. Whether we're living in base reality or a simulated universe, the sheer scale of existence remains undeniable. Billions of galaxies stretch across incomprehensible distances, each containing billions of stars and planets. Yet despite this abundance of celestial real estate, we've detected no definitive signs of extraterrestrial life. Where is everyone else? In the next segment, we'll delve into the Fermi Paradox, a conundrum that highlights the tension between the high probability of alien civilizations and the conspicuous silence of the universe. Is our galaxy teeming with life, hidden from view? Or are we truly alone among the stars? Close your eyes and imagine. Are you pixels on a screen, or something greater? Could the answers lie not within the simulation but out there, amidst the infinite expanse of space? Prepare to confront the mysteries of the cosmos. The Fermi Paradox. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast desert, staring into the horizon. The sand stretches endlessly in every direction, devoid of any signs of life. You know, logically, that deserts aren't truly empty. Creatures burrow beneath the surface, plants cling to existence in hidden oases, and winds carry whispers of movement across the dunes. Yet, as you scan the barren expanse, the silence feels overwhelming. Now, zoom out from this desert and expand it infinitely, not just across Earth but throughout the cosmos. This is the essence of the Fermi Paradox, a universe teeming with potential for life yet eerily silent. Named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who famously asked during a casual lunch conversation in 1950, "Where is everybody?" The Fermi Paradox encapsulates one of humanity's most profound mysteries. Given the sheer size and age of the universe, coupled with the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations existing somewhere among its billions of galaxies, why haven't we detected any evidence of them? This question has haunted scientists, philosophers, and dreamers alike, sparking decades of speculation about the nature of life beyond Earth, and what our cosmic solitude might mean for humanity. To appreciate the depth of the Fermi Paradox, we must first consider the numbers. The observable universe contains approximately 2 trillion galaxies, each home to billions or trillions of stars. Many of these stars harbor planets within their habitable zones, regions where conditions are theoretically suitable for liquid water, a key ingredient for life as we know it. With such staggering quantities, it seems statistically inevitable that intelligent civilizations have emerged elsewhere in the cosmos. Enrico Fermi's query arose from a simple observation: if alien civilizations exist, they should be detectable through advanced technology like radio signals, spacecraft, or massive engineering projects, such as Dyson spheres, hypothetical structures built around stars to harness their energy. Yet despite decades of searching via initiatives like SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, no definitive proof of extraterrestrial intelligence has surfaced. This apparent contradiction between expectation and reality forms the crux of the paradox. Several factors contribute to the likelihood of alien life. First, the timeline of the universe suggests ample opportunity for civilizations to arise. Our galaxy alone is roughly 13.6 billion years old, while Earth has existed for only about 4.5 billion years. If other planets developed life even slightly earlier than ours, their civilizations could have had millions, or billions, of years to evolve and spread across the stars. Second, the laws of physics appear consistent across the universe, implying that the building blocks of life, carbon-based molecules, water, etc., could form under similar conditions elsewhere. Finally, advancements in astrobiology continue to reveal extremophiles, organisms thriving in Earth's harshest environments, that hint at the resilience of life. Yet, despite these promising indicators, the silence persists. Scientists and thinkers have proposed numerous hypotheses to explain the Fermi Paradox, ranging from practical considerations to philosophical musings. Some suggest that interstellar travel is simply too difficult or resource-intensive for most civilizations to achieve. Others posit that intelligent species may destroy themselves before reaching the technological maturity needed to communicate across the void. Still, others speculate that aliens might deliberately avoid contact, either out of caution or because they've transcended physical existence altogether. One particularly compelling explanation involves the concept of the Great Filter, introduced by economist Robin Hanson. According to this theory, there exists a stage in the evolutionary process that is extraordinarily unlikely to overcome, a filter that prevents most civilizations from advancing far enough to colonize the galaxy. The Great Filter could occur at various points along the path to intelligent life, abiogenesis, the emergence of life from non-living matter, multicellularity, tool use, or the development of spacefaring capabilities. If the filter lies ahead of us, perhaps in the form of nuclear war, climate collapse, or artificial intelligence gone rogue, it implies a grim future for humanity. Conversely, if the filter lies behind us, it suggests that intelligent life is exceedingly rare, making our survival all the more remarkable. Another possibility is that alien civilizations are indeed out there but remain hidden due to the vast distances separating stars. Communication across light years requires immense patience. Messages sent today would take centuries or millennia to reach their destination, assuming anyone is listening. Additionally, cultural differences might render our attempts at contact incomprehensible. What if aliens perceive time differently, operate on wavelengths outside our detection range, or prioritize goals entirely foreign to human priorities? Perhaps the most unsettling scenario is that we're alone, not just in our solar system but in the entire universe. While this notion challenges our sense of place in the cosmos, it also carries profound implications for how we view ourselves and our responsibilities as stewards of life. The Fermi Paradox forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our place in the universe. If extraterrestrial life exists but chooses not to reveal itself, what does that say about their intentions, or ours? And if we're truly alone, what burdens fall upon humanity as the sole custodians of consciousness? Let's begin with the possibility that alien civilizations intentionally conceal themselves. This idea, often referred to as the dark forest hypothesis, was popularized by Chinese science fiction author Liu Cixin. In his novel The Three-Body Problem, he presents a chilling vision of the cosmos as a dark forest where every civilization hides, fearful of being discovered and annihilated by others. From this perspective, silence isn't merely a coincidence, it's a survival strategy. Advanced species might view broadcasting their presence as reckless, akin to lighting a bonfire in a jungle filled with predators. If true, this hypothesis casts doubt on humanity's ongoing efforts to signal our existence to the stars. Are we inviting danger by shouting into the void? On the flip side, intentional concealment could stem from altruism rather than fear. Perhaps highly evolved beings recognize the fragility of emerging civilizations and choose to let them develop without interference. This echoes Arthur C. Clarke's famous dictum, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." To an alien observer, our primitive attempts at communication might seem laughably rudimentary, prompting them to observe quietly rather than engage directly. Alternatively, they may communicate using methods we cannot yet comprehend, rendering our searches futile. Now, consider the alternative. What if we're alone? This possibility carries both existential weight and moral urgency. If humanity represents the only known instance of conscious life in the universe, then preserving and nurturing that spark becomes paramount. Every act of environmental destruction, every failure to address inequality or conflict, takes on heightened significance when viewed through the lens of cosmic responsibility. We are not merely caretakers of Earth, we are stewards of existence itself. At the same time, the idea of cosmic loneliness can feel isolating and disheartening. For millennia, humans have looked to the stars seeking connection, inspiration, and answers. Discovering that we're adrift in an indifferent universe might strip away some of the wonder that fuels exploration and discovery. Yet, paradoxically, it could also deepen our appreciation for the miracle of life. Knowing that our planet is unique underscores the importance of protecting its delicate balance, a reminder that even amidst emptiness, beauty persists. Finally, The Fermi Paradox invites reflection on the limits of human understanding. Despite our best efforts, we remain confined by the boundaries of our biology and cognition. Just as a dog cannot grasp the complexities of quantum mechanics, so too might we lack the capacity to perceive or interpret evidence of alien life. Perhaps the answers lie right before us, encoded in phenomena we dismiss as natural or mundane. Or perhaps they reside in dimensions beyond our perception, waiting for future generations to unlock their secrets. As we ponder the vastness of the cosmos and the enigma of extraterrestrial life, another question looms closer to home. Why does anything exist at all? Amidst the swirling galaxies and silent voids, the very fact of existence remains a riddle wrapped in mystery. What caused the universe to spring into being? Why is there something rather than nothing? In the next segment, we'll explore the problem of nothingness, a philosophical quandary that delves into the origins of reality itself. Could the fabric of existence emerge spontaneously from absolute nothingness? Or does the persistence of something point to deeper truths about the nature of being? Feel the enormity of the void. Is anyone out there listening? As we turn inward to contemplate the genesis of all things, let the silence guide you toward greater questions. The problem of nothingness. Imagine a canvas so blank that it doesn't even contain the faintest trace of color or texture. No brushstroke has touched it, no hand has shaped its surface, and no light reflects off its emptiness. This is the essence of nothingness, a void devoid of matter, energy, time, space, or even the potential for existence. Yet here we are, surrounded by galaxies, stars, planets, oceans, forests, cities, and people. The sheer improbability of something emerging from such absolute absence has puzzled philosophers, theologians, scientists, and thinkers for millennia. How did we get from nothing to everything? And why does anything exist at all? This question, the problem of nothingness, is perhaps one of the most profound riddles humanity has ever faced. It transcends disciplines, blending physics, metaphysics, theology, and existential philosophy into a single inquiry. Why is there something rather than nothing? While quantum mechanics suggests tantalizing clues about how something might arise spontaneously from nothing, these explanations only deepen the mystery. In this segment, we'll explore the concept of nothingness, examine its implications for our understanding of existence, and reflect on what it means to live in a universe that defies logic. To begin unraveling the problem of nothingness, we must first define what we mean by nothing. On the surface, it seems straightforward. Nothing is the absence of everything. No particles, no forces, no dimensions, not even the possibility of change or causation. But as soon as we try to describe it, contradictions emerge. For example, if nothing truly existed, wouldn't that imply the presence of some kind of state or condition? A framework within which nothing could be defined? Paradoxically, the very act of conceiving of nothingness introduces elements that contradict its purity. Philosophers have long grappled with this conundrum. Aristotle famously argued against the notion of absolute nothingness, asserting that nature abhors a vacuum. He believed that existence is self-sustaining and eternal, leaving no room for true non-being. Later thinkers like Leibniz posed the ultimate question: why is there something rather than nothing? His response invoked the idea of a necessary being, an entity whose existence is required to explain why anything exists at all. In religious contexts, this argument often points to God as the prime mover or creator who brought the universe into being. Modern physics offers a different perspective, rooted in empirical observation and mathematical modeling. Quantum mechanics, the branch of science governing subatomic particles, reveals that nothingness may not be as empty as it appears. According to quantum field theory, even in the absence of matter, space itself is alive with fluctuations, temporary disturbances in energy fields that can give rise to particles and antiparticles. These phenomena occur spontaneously, without requiring an external cause, suggesting that something can indeed emerge from nothing. One prominent hypothesis involves the concept of a quantum vacuum. Unlike classical notions of emptiness, a quantum vacuum isn't truly void. Instead, it's a seething cauldron of virtual particles popping in and out of existence. When certain conditions align, these fluctuations can trigger larger-scale events, such as the birth of universes. Cosmologists propose that our universe may have originated from such a fluctuation, a random event in a pre-existing quantum vacuum that led to the Big Bang and the subsequent expansion of spacetime. Another intriguing idea comes from string theory and multiverse models, which suggest that our universe is just one bubble among countless others in a vast cosmic foam. Each bubble represents a distinct reality with its own physical laws and constants, potentially arising from quantum processes in higher dimensional spaces. From this perspective, the emergence of something becomes less miraculous and more inevitable, a statistical certainty given infinite possibilities. Yet, while these theories provide fascinating insights, they don't fully resolve the problem of nothingness. Even if something can arise from quantum fluctuations or multiversal dynamics, what explains the existence of those underlying frameworks? Why should quantum fields or higher dimensional realms exist at all? At some point, we're left with the same fundamental question: why is there anything rather than absolutely nothing? The problem of nothingness carries profound implications for how we understand existence, purpose, and meaning. If the universe arose from randomness or necessity, does that imply life is inherently meaningless? Or does it suggest new ways of finding significance in an indifferent cosmos? Consider the first scenario, a universe born purely by chance. If quantum fluctuations or multiversal probabilities account for our existence, then life may be little more than a fortunate accident, a fleeting anomaly amidst the vast indifference of the cosmos. This view aligns with existentialist philosophies, which emphasize the absurdity of seeking purpose in a universe that lacks inherent meaning. Albert Camus, for instance, argued that recognizing life's futility allows us to embrace freedom and create our own values. From this perspective, the absence of divine design or cosmic intent liberates us to define our own paths and pursue joy despite the uncertainty. However, others find solace in the idea that existence itself confers meaning. If nothingness were the default state, then the mere fact of being alive takes on extraordinary weight. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of awareness becomes a testament to the improbable miracle of existence. Philosopher Martin Heidegger explored this idea through his concept of being, arguing that human consciousness uniquely positions us to confront the mystery of why there is something rather than nothing. By reflecting on our place in the cosmos, we participate in a dialogue with existence itself, a process he called authentic living. Religious traditions offer yet another lens through which to interpret the problem of nothingness. Many faiths posit that the universe was created intentionally by a divine force, imbuing existence with purpose and direction. From this standpoint, the transition from nothingness to something reflects the will of a benevolent deity who designed the cosmos as an expression of love, creativity, or wisdom. Such narratives provide comfort and coherence, framing our lives as part of a grander plan. But what if neither randomness nor divinity adequately explains the origins of existence? Some theorists propose that the question itself may be flawed, that asking why presupposes a causal framework that doesn't apply to the primordial state of nothingness. Perhaps existence simply is, without justification or precedent. This minimalist approach echoes the Taoist principle of wu-wei, non-action, which encourages acceptance of the natural flow of reality without imposing artificial constructs like purpose or meaning. Regardless of which interpretation resonates most deeply, the problem of nothingness challenges us to confront our assumptions about the world. Does the persistence of something suggest that existence is inherently meaningful, or does it highlight the absurdity of trying to impose order on chaos? And if we accept that the universe operates according to principles beyond human comprehension, how do we navigate the tension between wonder and bewilderment? On a personal level, the problem of nothingness invites reflection on mortality and legacy. If existence is fragile and contingent, what responsibilities do we bear toward future generations? Should we strive to leave a mark on the cosmos, or embrace the impermanence of life and focus on savoring the present moment? These questions echo throughout history, shaping art, literature, and spirituality in ways that continue to inspire awe and introspection. As we contemplate the origins of existence and the paradox of nothingness, let's shift our gaze inward, to the fragility of identity itself. What makes you you? Is it your memories, your body, your choices? Or is there something deeper, something unchanging beneath the surface? In the next segment, we'll explore The Ship of Theseus, a thought experiment that probes the nature of selfhood and continuity. As parts of the ship are replaced over time, does it remain the same vessel? And if not, what happens when you no longer recognize yourself? Contemplate the silence before creation. What brought you here? As we delve into the mysteries of identity, let the echoes of existence guide your thoughts. The Trolley Problem. Imagine standing on a railway platform, your heart pounding as you hear the distant rumble of an out-of-control trolley hurtling down the tracks. Ahead, you see 5 workers tied to the rails, oblivious to their impending doom. Just beside you is a lever that can divert the trolley onto another track, but there's a catch. On this alternate track stands a single individual, equally unaware of the danger. You have seconds to decide. Do you pull the lever and sacrifice 1 life to save 5, or do you stand idle and allow the trolley to continue its deadly course? This harrowing scenario, known as the Trolley Problem, is not just a thought experiment, it's a mirror reflecting the complexities of human morality. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about right and wrong, responsibility, and the value we place on human life. The trolley problem has fascinated philosophers, ethicists, and psychologists for decades because it distills moral decision-making into its purest form. At its core, the dilemma pits 2 competing ethical frameworks against each other: utilitarianism and deontology. Utilitarianism argues that the morally correct action is the one that maximizes overall well-being, in this case, saving the greatest number of lives. Deontology, on the other hand, emphasizes adherence to universal rules or duties, regardless of the outcome. From a deontological perspective, actively intervening, pulling the lever, might be seen as morally wrong because it involves directly causing harm to an innocent person. These conflicting philosophies create a tension that leaves no clear resolution, and that's precisely what makes the trolley problem so compelling. To fully grasp the trolley problem, let's break down its components and explore why it resonates so deeply with our sense of ethics. The scenario begins with a stark choice: act or refrain from acting. Pulling the lever diverts the trolley onto the second track, resulting in the death of 1 worker but sparing the lives of 5 others. Refraining from action allows the trolley to continue along its original path, leading to the deaths of the 5 workers while leaving the lone individual unharmed. On the surface, the math seems straightforward: 5 lives outweigh 1. But morality is rarely so simple. Philosopher Philippa Foot first introduced the trolley problem in 1967 as part of her work on moral philosophy. She used it to illustrate the challenges of applying ethical theories to real-world situations. Later variations, such as Judith Jarvis Thomson's Fat Man version, added layers of complexity. In this variant, instead of pulling a lever, you're faced with the option of pushing a large man off a bridge to stop the trolley, sacrificing him to save the 5 workers. While the outcome remains the same, 1 life lost to save 5, the emotional weight shifts dramatically when physical proximity and personal involvement come into play. What makes the trolley problem particularly unsettling is how it exposes the limits of traditional moral reasoning. A strict utilitarian might argue that pulling the lever is the only rational choice. It minimizes suffering and maximizes overall happiness. Yet many people feel uneasy about taking an active role in causing harm, even if it results in a better outcome. This discomfort suggests that our moral intuitions are influenced by factors beyond mere calculations of utility. Emotions, cultural norms, and subconscious biases all shape how we respond to ethical dilemmas. Deontologists, meanwhile, would caution against pulling the lever, arguing that deliberately harming an innocent person violates a fundamental moral principle. According to this view, morality isn't about weighing outcomes but adhering to universal rules, such as, do not kill. Even if refraining from action leads to greater loss of life, it preserves the integrity of the moral agent. You avoid becoming complicit in wrongdoing. However, this stance raises its own set of troubling questions. If inaction leads to tragedy, can we truly absolve ourselves of responsibility? Modern neuroscience and psychology offer additional insights into why the trolley problem elicits such visceral reactions. Brain imaging studies show that different regions of the brain activate depending on whether a decision involves personal harm versus impersonal consequences. For example, pulling a lever feels less emotionally charged than physically pushing someone onto the tracks, even though the outcomes are identical. This distinction highlights the interplay between reason and emotion in moral decision-making, a dynamic that complicates attempts to arrive at objective answers. Ultimately, the trolley problem serves as a microcosm of larger societal debates. Should governments prioritize policies that benefit the majority, even if they disadvantage minorities? Is it acceptable to sacrifice individual freedoms for the greater good during emergencies like pandemics? By forcing us to grapple with these questions in a controlled setting, the trolley problem reveals the inherent messiness of ethics, a domain where clarity often gives way to ambiguity. The implications of the trolley problem extend far beyond hypothetical scenarios involving runaway trains. At its heart, the dilemma challenges us to reflect on how we assign value to human life, and whether those values are consistent across contexts. Consider the following questions. Are all lives equally valuable, or do some carry more weight based on factors like age, health, or social contribution? If you had to choose between saving a brilliant scientist and a struggling artist, would your decision hinge on perceived potential impact? What if the individuals involved were strangers versus loved ones? These considerations become especially relevant in fields like medicine, law enforcement, and artificial intelligence, where ethical decisions must often be made under pressure. For instance, doctors routinely face triage situations during disasters or pandemics, deciding which patients receive limited resources like ventilators or ICU beds. Similarly, autonomous vehicles programmed to navigate complex traffic environments must be equipped to handle scenarios akin to the trolley problem. Should a self-driving car prioritize the safety of its passengers over pedestrians? And who bears responsibility if an accident occurs, the manufacturer, the programmer, or the algorithm itself? On a broader scale, the trolley problem underscores the fragility of human morality. Our ethical systems are designed to guide behavior in predictable ways, yet they falter when confronted with extreme or ambiguous circumstances. This vulnerability raises unsettling possibilities. If moral frameworks fail under stress, does that mean morality itself is arbitrary? Or does it suggest that ethical principles require constant refinement to adapt to new challenges? Another implication lies in the concept of moral responsibility. If you pull the lever and cause the death of the single worker, are you culpable for their demise? Conversely, if you refrain from acting and allow the 5 workers to die, are you guilty of negligence? Legal systems struggle with similar questions, particularly in cases involving passive versus active harm. For example, failing to report a crime may carry lighter penalties than committing the crime itself, even though both actions contribute to negative outcomes. The trolley problem amplifies these distinctions, forcing us to consider whether intention, action, and consequence should be weighed equally in determining guilt or innocence. Perhaps most profoundly, the trolley problem invites introspection about identity and character. How we respond to moral dilemmas shapes not only the world around us but also our perception of ourselves. Would pulling the lever make you feel heroic for saving lives, or monstrous for taking one? Would refraining from action leave you guilt-ridden over inaction, or comforted by the belief that you avoided direct involvement in harm? These internal conflicts reveal the extent to which morality intertwines with self-image, influencing everything from career choices to interpersonal relationships. Finally, the trolley problem highlights the limitations of binary thinking. Real-life ethical challenges rarely present themselves as neatly as the trolley scenario, with clear options and predictable outcomes. More often than not, we operate in gray areas where information is incomplete, stakes are uncertain, and trade-offs abound. Learning to navigate these ambiguities requires humility, empathy, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty, a skill set increasingly vital in an interconnected and rapidly changing world. As we grapple with the moral complexities of the trolley problem, it becomes evident that our decisions, whether deliberate or instinctive, shape not only the external world but also our inner selves. Yet what happens when the boundaries between life and death blur? What if consciousness persists beyond the physical body, defying our conventional understanding of mortality? In the next segment, we'll delve into quantum immortality, a mind-bending hypothesis rooted in quantum mechanics that suggests certain versions of you may endure indefinitely across infinite timelines. Could this theory offer a glimpse into immortality, or deepen the existential quandaries we've already encountered? Consider your choices. Would they change who you are? As we venture into the realm of quantum realities, let the echoes of your decisions linger in your mind. Quantum immortality. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, wind whipping through your hair, as you peer into the abyss below. In this moment, you're faced with a choice: step forward and leap into the unknown, or retreat and continue living your life as it is. But what if, unbeknownst to you, reality itself splits into multiple branches the instant you make that decision? In one branch, you jump and survive against all odds, perhaps landing softly on a ledge or being caught by an unexpected gust of wind. In another, you plummet to your death. And yet, in the strange logic of quantum mechanics, you only ever experience the outcomes where you remain alive. This is the essence of quantum immortality, a tantalizing yet unsettling hypothesis that suggests consciousness might persist indefinitely across infinite timelines, navigating paths where survival remains possible. Quantum immortality is not just a fanciful idea plucked from science fiction. It's rooted in interpretations of quantum mechanics, particularly the many-worlds interpretation, MWI, proposed by physicist Hugh Everett III in 1957. According to MWI, every quantum event spawns multiple parallel universes, each representing a different outcome of that event. For example, when a particle exists in a superposition of states, say, spinning both clockwise and counterclockwise, it doesn't collapse into one state upon measurement. Instead, the universe splits, creating separate realities where each outcome occurs. Over time, these branching realities form an unimaginably vast multiverse, encompassing every conceivable variation of existence. The concept of quantum immortality takes this framework a step further by applying it to human consciousness. If subjective experience continues only along paths where you remain alive, then death becomes an impossibility from your own perspective. Each near-death experience simply diverts your awareness into a timeline where survival occurs. While this notion offers a seductive vision of eternal life, it also raises profound philosophical and existential questions about identity, continuity, and the nature of consciousness itself. To understand quantum immortality, we must first delve deeper into the principles underlying quantum mechanics and the many-worlds interpretation. At its core, quantum mechanics describes the behavior of particles at subatomic scales, where classical physics breaks down and uncertainty reigns supreme. One of the most famous thought experiments illustrating this strangeness is Schrödinger's cat, which posits that a cat placed in a sealed box with a radioactive atom and a poison mechanism exists in a superposition of being both alive and dead until observed. Only when someone opens the box does the wave function collapse, resolving the cat's fate into one definite state. However, the many-worlds interpretation rejects the idea of collapse altogether. Instead, it proposes that both outcomes, the cat being alive and the cat being dead, occur simultaneously, but in separate, non-interacting branches of reality. These branches diverge continuously, creating an ever-expanding tree of possibilities. Every decision, every random event, every quantum fluctuation spawns new worlds, each slightly different from the last. The implications are staggering. There exists a version of you who took a different job, married someone else, or never read this very sentence. Quantum immortality builds on this foundation by introducing the role of consciousness into the equation. The hypothesis hinges on the assumption that subjective experience cannot perceive its own termination. If you die in one branch of the multiverse, your awareness seamlessly transitions to another branch where you continue living. From your perspective, you always find yourself in the timelines where survival is possible. This creates the illusion of immortality, even though countless other versions of you may perish in alternate realities. Consider a simple example. Imagine flipping a coin. In one branch of the multiverse, the coin lands heads. In another, it lands tails. Now, suppose the outcome determines whether you live or die. For instance, surviving a game of Russian roulette. If the gun fires, you cease to exist in that particular branch. However, in the branch where the chamber is empty, you live on. Since consciousness can only follow paths where it persists, you will never subjectively experience your own death. Instead, you'll always awaken to find yourself in a world where luck favored you. This line of reasoning extends to more complex scenarios, such as accidents, illnesses, or old age. Even in situations where survival seems astronomically unlikely, quantum immortality posits that some version of you will endure. Perhaps you narrowly escape a fatal car crash due to a last-second swerve, recover miraculously from a terminal illness, or discover groundbreaking anti-aging technology. Each improbable outcome represents a sliver of possibility within the multiverse, and for quantum immortality to hold true, your consciousness need only latch onto those slivers. Critics of the hypothesis often point out its speculative nature and reliance on assumptions about the nature of consciousness. Is awareness truly tethered to physical processes, or does it transcend them? Can subjective experience navigate branching realities without fragmentation? These unanswered questions highlight the speculative boundaries of quantum immortality, making it as much a philosophical inquiry as a scientific one. If quantum immortality holds any semblance of truth, the implications are both exhilarating and deeply unsettling. On the surface, the prospect of eternal life sounds like a dream come true, a cosmic safety net ensuring that you'll always emerge unscathed, no matter how dire the circumstances. But scratch beneath the surface, and darker truths begin to emerge. What does it mean to live forever? Not in a literal sense, but in the fragmented, probabilistic manner described by quantum immortality. One immediate implication is the psychological toll of perpetual survival. Imagine enduring endless cycles of near-death experiences, constantly skating on the razor's edge between life and oblivion. You might survive a plane crash only to face a deadly illness, recover from that only to encounter another catastrophe ad infinitum. Over time, this relentless evasion of mortality could erode your sanity, leaving you trapped in a nightmarish loop of close calls and narrow escapes. Would eternal life, under these conditions, feel like a blessing or a curse? Another troubling aspect concerns the fragmentation of identity. In the multiverse, there are infinite versions of you, each shaped by unique choices, events, and circumstances. Some versions thrive, achieving greatness and fulfillment. Others languish in despair, burdened by misfortune. Yet according to quantum immortality, your consciousness remains tethered to the branches where you survive. But how coherent is that selfhood across timelines? Are you still the same person if your memories, personality, and experiences diverge wildly from one reality to the next? Or does the fracturing of identity render the concept of you meaningless? Philosophers have long debated the nature of personal identity, asking whether continuity of consciousness, memory, or bodily integrity defines who we are. Quantum immortality complicates these discussions by introducing the dimension of multiplicity. If countless iterations of you exist simultaneously, which one represents the true you? Does subjective experience anchor identity firmly in a single branch, or does it splinter across realities, diluting the essence of selfhood? These questions challenge our fundamental understanding of what it means to be human. The hypothesis also forces us to reconsider the role of suffering and resilience in shaping our lives. Mortality gives weight to our actions, imbuing them with urgency and significance. Knowing that our time is finite motivates us to cherish relationships, pursue dreams, and confront challenges head-on. Without the specter of death looming over us, would life lose its poignancy? Would we grow complacent, drifting aimlessly through eternity without purpose or direction? Alternatively, might the absence of fear liberate us to explore new frontiers of creativity, compassion, and discovery? Finally, Quantum immortality invites reflection on the interplay between individuality and interconnectedness. If every possible outcome unfolds somewhere in the multiverse, then the distinction between success and failure, joy and sorrow, life and death blurs into insignificance. Your triumphs and tragedies coexist alongside their opposites, rendering judgment irrelevant. This realization could foster humility and empathy, reminding us that our struggles are but threads in a vast tapestry of existence. Conversely, it could breed nihilism, undermining the value we assign to personal achievements and collective progress. While quantum immortality offers a tantalizing vision of eternal life, it ultimately rests on the assumption that existence itself is infinite and unchanging. Yet the cosmos tells a different story, one of entropy, decay, and eventual dissolution. As stars burn out, galaxies drift apart, and energy dissipates, the universe marches inexorably toward a cold, dark end known as heat death. In the next segment, we'll explore the heat death of the universe, a chilling reminder of cosmic impermanence. What happens when all usable energy is exhausted, leaving behind a static void devoid of motion or life? How does this ultimate fate shape our understanding of meaning and legacy? Breathe deeply. Imagine worlds splitting endlessly around you. As we turn our gaze to the farthest reaches of time and space, let the echoes of eternity guide your thoughts. The heat death of the universe. Imagine a universe devoid of light, warmth, or movement, a vast, silent expanse where nothing stirs, and all that remains is an eternal chill. Stars have long since burned out, galaxies have drifted apart into the void, and the last remnants of energy have dissipated into a uniform, unchanging sea of cold radiation. This is the heat death of the universe, the ultimate fate predicted by the laws of thermodynamics. It's a vision so bleak that it forces us to confront our deepest fears about impermanence, meaning, and the fragility of existence. Yet within this desolate future lies a profound meditation on the nature of life itself, and the fleeting beauty of the present moment. The concept of heat death emerges from the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy, a measure of disorder or randomness, always increases over time in a closed system. As energy disperses and becomes evenly distributed, the universe gradually loses its capacity for work, motion, and change. Eventually, every star exhausts its nuclear fuel, black holes evaporate through Hawking radiation, and even subatomic particles decay into inert forms. In this terminal state, no usable energy remains to sustain processes like life, thought, or creativity. Time itself may lose its significance, as there are no events left to distinguish one moment from another. The universe reaches thermal equilibrium, a static condition often described as maximum entropy. This grim prognosis has haunted scientists and philosophers for centuries, challenging our assumptions about progress, purpose, and permanence. If the cosmos is destined to end in such a sterile, unyielding state, does anything we do truly matter? Or does the inevitability of heat death make our brief spark of existence all the more precious? To fully grasp the implications of heat death, we must first understand the principles of thermodynamics that underpin it. At its core, thermodynamics governs how energy flows and transforms within systems, whether they're engines, ecosystems, or entire universes. The first law of thermodynamics tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only change forms. This conservation principle ensures that the total amount of energy in the universe remains constant. However, the second law introduces a crucial limitation. While energy persists, its quality degrades over time. Usable energy, the kind that powers stars, drives chemical reactions, and sustains life, is converted into less organized forms, such as heat, until it becomes impossible to harness effectively. Entropy plays a central role in this process. Often misunderstood as synonymous with chaos, entropy actually measures the number of ways energy can be distributed within a system. High-entropy states correspond to greater disorder because energy is spread out uniformly, leaving little room for gradients or differences that drive activity. For example, consider a cup of hot coffee placed on a table. Initially, the coffee has low entropy because its heat is concentrated in a small volume. Over time, however, heat dissipates into the surrounding air, raising the entropy of both the coffee and its environment. Eventually, the temperature equalizes, and no further exchange occurs. The system reaches equilibrium. On a cosmic scale, entropy operates similarly but with far-reaching consequences. Stars act as engines of order, converting hydrogen into helium and releasing vast amounts of energy in the process. This energy fuels planets, ecosystems, and civilizations, creating pockets of complexity amidst the otherwise chaotic backdrop of the universe. But these processes come at a cost. Each transformation increases overall entropy, pushing the cosmos closer to its ultimate limit. Once all available energy has been dispersed, no new structures can form, and existing ones inevitably collapse. The timeline leading to heat death unfolds over unimaginable timescales. Current estimates suggest that star formation will cease within roughly 100 trillion years, leaving behind dim white dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes. These remnants will persist for eons before succumbing to quantum effects. Stellar mass black holes might take up to 10 to the power of 67 years to evaporate completely. By comparison, the current age of the universe, approximately 13.8 billion years, is a mere blink of an eye. Even after black holes vanish, residual particles may continue decaying for trillions upon trillions of years, until nothing remains but photons drifting aimlessly through empty space. What makes heat death particularly haunting is its finality. Unlike other proposed apocalypses, such as a Big Crunch or vacuum decay, the heat death scenario leaves no possibility for renewal or rebirth. There are no cycles, no resets, no second chances. The universe simply winds down, growing colder and darker with each passing epoch, until all traces of vitality disappear forever. The prospect of heat death raises profound existential questions about the meaning of life, the value of effort, and the nature of legacy. If everything we build, create, and cherish will eventually dissolve into nothingness, does any of it hold significance? Or does the inevitability of extinction heighten the importance of what we achieve during our brief window of opportunity? One perspective views heat death as a nihilistic endpoint, stripping existence of purpose and rendering human endeavors futile. From this standpoint, the relentless march toward entropy undermines notions of progress and achievement. Why strive for greatness if all accomplishments will ultimately be erased? Why invest in relationships, art, or knowledge when none of it can endure beyond the cosmic horizon? This line of reasoning echoes Albert Camus' philosophy of the absurd, which posits that life lacks inherent meaning yet compels us to seek it nonetheless. In the shadow of heat death, the pursuit of goals takes on a tragic dimension, a desperate attempt to impose order on a universe inexorably sliding toward chaos. Yet another interpretation finds solace in impermanence, emphasizing the beauty of transience rather than despairing over its inevitability. Just as flowers bloom briefly before wilting, or sunsets paint the sky for only a few fleeting moments, perhaps the ephemeral nature of existence enhances its poignancy. Knowing that life is finite imbues it with urgency and intensity, encouraging us to savor every experience, connection, and act of creation. This sentiment resonates with Eastern philosophies like Buddhism, which celebrate impermanence as an essential aspect of reality. Rather than clinging to illusions of permanence, we learn to embrace change, finding peace in the flow of existence. Heat death also challenges traditional notions of immortality and legacy. Throughout history, humans have sought ways to transcend mortality through monuments, literature, scientific discoveries, or spiritual beliefs promising eternal life. Yet in a universe fated to dissolve into entropy, no monument can stand indefinitely, no book can remain legible forever, and no soul can escape the eventual cessation of consciousness. Does this realization diminish the value of striving for immortality, or does it redefine it? Perhaps true immortality lies not in preserving physical artifacts but in fostering connections that ripple outward, influencing countless lives across generations. Even if the universe forgets us, the impact of our actions may echo in ways we cannot predict. On a personal level, contemplating heat death invites reflection on gratitude and mindfulness. If the cosmos is destined to grow cold and dark, then every ray of sunlight, every breath of fresh air, and every shared laugh becomes infinitely precious. We are here now, not guaranteed tomorrow, nor promised yesterday. This awareness can inspire us to live fully in the present moment, cultivating joy, compassion, and wonder despite the looming specter of oblivion. Finally, heat death underscores the interconnectedness of all things. While individual stars burn out and galaxies fade, their contributions shape the larger narrative of the universe. Each photon emitted by a dying sun carries a fragment of its story, traveling across light years to illuminate distant worlds. Similarly, our lives, though infinitesimal in the grand scheme, weave together into a tapestry of collective experience. Recognizing this interdependence can foster humility and empathy, reminding us that even the smallest acts of kindness or curiosity leave ripples in the fabric of existence. Though the heat death of the universe reminds us of the inevitability of cosmic impermanence, our very presence here feels almost miraculous. Amidst the vast emptiness and infinite timelines of the multiverse, why does the universe appear finely tuned for life? Why do the constants of nature align so precisely to allow stars to shine, planets to form, and consciousness to emerge? In the next segment, we'll explore the Anthropic Principle, a fascinating hypothesis that delves into the delicate balance of conditions enabling intelligent life to exist. Could our universe be the product of design, chance, or something else entirely? As we unpack this mystery, let the echoes of eternity guide your thoughts toward deeper questions about purpose and providence. Feel the vast emptiness stretching before you. Is there solace in impermanence? Let the stillness settle as we turn our gaze to the origins of fine-tuning and wonder. The Anthropic Principle. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, shimmering lake. Its surface is so still that it perfectly mirrors the sky above, creating an illusion of infinite depth. Now picture yourself tossing a pebble into the water. Ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection and revealing the intricate interplay of forces beneath the surface. In many ways, this image mirrors the Anthropic Principle, a concept that invites us to consider how the delicate balance of conditions in the universe allows for our existence. Just as the ripples on the lake reveal hidden complexities, the Anthropic Principle uncovers profound truths about why we are here and whether our presence is a matter of chance or design. The Anthropic Principle addresses one of the most perplexing questions in science and philosophy: why does the universe appear finely tuned for life? From the precise values of fundamental constants to the specific properties of subatomic particles, the cosmos seems engineered with remarkable precision to enable stars, planets, and ultimately intelligent beings like ourselves to emerge. This observation has sparked intense debate among physicists, theologians, and philosophers alike. Is this fine-tuning evidence of divine intent, or merely a statistical inevitability given enough universes? And what does it say about humanity's place within the grand tapestry of existence? To understand the Anthropic Principle, we must first delve into the extraordinary coincidences that make life possible. The universe operates according to a set of fundamental laws and constants, quantities like the gravitational constant, the speed of light, and the strength of nuclear forces that govern everything from the formation of galaxies to the chemistry of DNA. Remarkably, these constants fall within incredibly narrow ranges. Even slight deviations would render the universe inhospitable to life as we know it. For example, consider the cosmological constant, which determines the rate of expansion of the universe. If this value were even slightly larger, the universe would expand too quickly for galaxies and stars to form. Conversely, if it were smaller, gravity would cause the universe to collapse back on itself before life could arise. Similarly, the ratio between the electromagnetic force and the strong nuclear force dictates whether atoms can bond to create complex molecules. A minuscule shift in this ratio would prevent the formation of carbon, oxygen, and other elements essential for life. These examples represent just a fraction of the fine-tuned parameters observed in nature. Together, they suggest that the universe occupies a kind of Goldilocks zone, where conditions are neither too extreme nor too mild but just right for life to flourish. But why should this be the case? The Anthropic Principle offers two broad interpretations, each with its own philosophical implications. The first interpretation, often called the weak anthropic principle, asserts that the universe appears fine-tuned because only under such conditions could intelligent observers exist to ponder the question. In other words, we shouldn't be surprised by the apparent precision of the constants, since any alternative configuration would preclude the emergence of conscious beings capable of asking why things are the way they are. This perspective emphasizes the role of selection bias. We observe a universe conducive to life simply because we wouldn't exist otherwise. The second interpretation, known as the strong anthropic principle, takes a more speculative stance. It suggests that the universe must necessarily take on forms compatible with the existence of observers. Some proponents of this view argue that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping reality, while others invoke the multiverse hypothesis to explain the fine-tuning. According to the multiverse theory, our universe is just one of countless others, each governed by different physical laws and constants. Among this vast ensemble, it's statistically inevitable that at least some universes will have the right conditions for life, and naturally, we find ourselves in one of those lucky few. Both versions of the anthropic principle raise intriguing possibilities but also provoke skepticism. Critics of the weak anthropic principle contend that it sidesteps deeper questions by framing the issue as a tautology. We're here because we're here. Meanwhile, detractors of the strong version point out its reliance on untestable assumptions, particularly regarding the existence of other universes. Despite these challenges, the anthropic principle remains a cornerstone of modern discussions about the origins and meaning of the cosmos. The implications of the anthropic principle extend far beyond physics, touching on theology, metaphysics, and existential philosophy. At its core, the principle forces us to grapple with the significance of human existence in a seemingly indifferent universe. Are we the beneficiaries of cosmic luck, or do we occupy a privileged position within creation? One possibility is that the fine-tuning points to intelligent design, a benevolent creator who crafted the universe specifically to harbor life. This argument resonates with religious traditions that view humanity as central to divine plans. For instance, the Bible describes humans as being made in the image of God, endowed with unique capacities for thought, morality, and spirituality. Similarly, Islamic teachings emphasize the purposeful design of the heavens and the earth as signs of Allah's wisdom and power. From this perspective, the anthropic principle reinforces the notion that the universe was created with intentionality, offering a sense of meaning and belonging. However, not everyone finds comfort in attributing fine-tuning to divine intervention. Many scientists prefer naturalistic explanations, citing the multiverse hypothesis as a plausible alternative. If there are infinite universes, each with its own random assortment of physical laws, then it's no surprise that at least one, including ours, would happen to support life. While this explanation avoids invoking supernatural causes, it introduces new puzzles. How do we verify the existence of other universes if they lie forever beyond our observational reach? And what does it mean for reality to encompass such staggering diversity? Others reject both design and multiverse arguments, viewing the anthropic principle as evidence of absurdity rather than purpose. Existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre might argue that the apparent fine-tuning underscores the arbitrariness of existence. If life arose through sheer happenstance, then our search for meaning becomes all the more poignant, and perhaps futile. This line of reasoning echoes the sentiment expressed by physicist Steven Weinberg when he famously wrote, "The more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it also seems pointless." Yet another implication lies in the relationship between humanity and the cosmos. If the universe truly is fine-tuned for life, does that imply a special status for intelligent beings, or does it highlight our insignificance against the backdrop of infinity? On one hand, the fact that the constants align so precisely to allow for consciousness could suggest that we play a vital role in the unfolding drama of existence. Perhaps, as Teilhard de Chardin proposed, evolution culminates in the emergence of self-aware minds capable of contemplating their origins. On the other hand, the vastness of space and time reminds us of our fleeting presence within the grand scheme of things. Billions of years passed before life appeared, and billions more may elapse after we vanish. Against this timeline, our moment in the spotlight feels ephemeral indeed. Finally, the Anthropic Principle invites reflection on the limits of human understanding. As much as we've learned about the workings of the universe, mysteries remain. What lies beyond the observable horizon? Are there dimensions or phenomena inaccessible to current scientific methods? By acknowledging the boundaries of our knowledge, we cultivate humility and curiosity, recognizing that wonder is as much a part of the journey as discovery. From the grand scale of the cosmos and its finely tuned constants, let's zoom back to the paradoxes hidden in plain sight, those subtle yet profound contradictions that challenge our everyday intuitions. Zeno's paradoxes, devised over 2 millennia ago by the ancient Greek philosopher Zeno of Elea, force us to reconsider basic notions of motion, continuity, and progress. Can you ever truly cross a room, or is movement itself an illusion? In the next segment, we'll explore Zeno's paradoxes, timeless riddles that continue to intrigue mathematicians, physicists, and philosophers. Do these ancient puzzles reveal flaws in our understanding of reality, or do they hint at deeper truths lurking beneath the surface? Reflect on the delicate balance of existence. Are we lucky or destined? Let the stillness settle as we turn our gaze to the paradoxes that blur the line between logic and experience. Zeno's paradoxes. Imagine standing at the starting line of a race, your muscles coiled and ready to spring forward. The finish line lies just ahead, a mere 100 meters away. But before you can reach it, you must first cover half the distance. And before that, you must cover half of that distance. In fact, no matter how small the remaining gap becomes, you'll always have to traverse yet another halfway point. By this reasoning, you'll never actually cross the finish line, or so argues Zeno of Elea in one of his most famous paradoxes. This ancient Greek philosopher crafted a series of thought experiments that challenge our understanding of motion, infinity, and continuity. Though modern mathematics has since resolved these puzzles, their philosophical implications continue to haunt us. What if the very fabric of reality is more fragmented than we perceive? Could our senses deceive us about something as fundamental as movement? Zeno's paradoxes are not merely intellectual curiosities. They strike at the heart of what we believe to be true about the world. At first glance, they seem absurd. After all, we move through space every day without issue. Yet beneath their surface lies a profound meditation on the nature of existence itself. These paradoxes force us to confront uncomfortable questions. Is motion real, or is it an illusion created by discrete steps? Does infinity exist in the physical world, or is it purely a construct of the mind? And if logic cannot fully account for reality, then what does that say about the limits of human comprehension? To understand Zeno's paradoxes, we must delve into the historical context from which they emerged. Zeno of Elea lived in the 5th century BCE and was a student of Parmenides, a philosopher who argued that reality is singular, unchanging, and indivisible. According to Parmenides, change and plurality were illusions, a radical claim that contradicted common sense. To defend his teacher's ideas, Zeno devised a series of paradoxes designed to expose contradictions in the notion of motion and multiplicity. While his arguments may appear counterintuitive, they reveal deep tensions between intuition and reason. The most well-known of Zeno's paradoxes is the dichotomy paradox, which we touched upon earlier. It states that in order to travel any finite distance, one must first complete an infinite number of tasks, each involving traversing half the remaining distance. Since completing an infinite sequence of actions seems impossible, motion appears logically untenable. Another classic example is Achilles and the tortoise, in which the swift warrior Achilles races against a tortoise given a head start. Zeno argues that Achilles will never catch up because he must first reach the point where the tortoise began, only to find the tortoise has moved slightly further ahead. Repeating this process ad infinitum ensures the tortoise always stays ahead. Two other notable paradoxes include the arrow paradox and the stadium paradox. The arrow paradox posits that at any given instant, a moving arrow occupies a fixed position in space. If it is stationary at every moment, then it cannot truly be in motion. a conclusion that defies observation. Meanwhile, the stadium paradox examines relative motion among three rows of objects moving past each other. Zeno uses this scenario to argue that time and space must be composed of indivisible units, leading to logical inconsistencies when considering simultaneous interactions. These paradoxes hinge on the concept of infinity, a mathematical abstraction that defies easy visualization. Infinity suggests endlessness, boundlessness, and incompleteness, all qualities that resist direct application to the physical world. For Zeno, the paradoxes served as proof that motion and change were illusory, supporting Parmenides' monistic worldview. However, centuries later, advances in mathematics provided tools to address these apparent contradictions. Modern calculus, developed independently by Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz in the 17th century, offers a resolution to Zeno's paradoxes. Calculus introduces the concepts of limits and infinitesimals, allowing mathematicians to handle infinite sequences and convergent series rigorously. For instance, while Zeno's dichotomy paradox implies that crossing a finite distance requires summing an infinite number of terms, calculus shows that such a series can converge to a finite value. Similarly, the arrow paradox dissolves once we recognize that velocity, the rate of change of position over time, is a meaningful quantity even within infinitesimal intervals. Despite these mathematical solutions, Zeno's paradoxes retain their philosophical allure. They remind us that perception and logic often diverge, leaving gaps in our understanding of reality. Even if motion is mathematically consistent, the paradoxes highlight the limitations of language and conceptual frameworks in describing the continuous flow of experience. The enduring fascination with Zeno's paradoxes stems from their ability to provoke deeper reflection on the nature of reality. If motion, an activity so central to our daily lives, can be called into question, what else might we misunderstand about the world around us? Do our perceptions deceive us? Or is logic itself incomplete? One implication is that reality may be fundamentally discrete rather than continuous. Quantum mechanics, the branch of physics governing subatomic particles, echoes this idea. At extremely small scales, energy levels and spatial positions become quantized, suggesting that the smooth transitions we observe macroscopically are approximations of underlying granularity. If Zeno's paradoxes hint at a pixelated universe, then perhaps motion is indeed an emergent phenomenon, a composite of countless tiny steps occurring too quickly for us to perceive individually. This perspective aligns with digital physics theories, which propose that the universe operates like a computer simulation, processing information in discrete units. Another implication concerns the reliability of human perception. Our brains evolved to navigate a middle-scale environment, where objects behave predictably and causality appears straightforward. Outside this range, whether observing quantum phenomena or cosmic expanses, our intuitions falter. Zeno's paradoxes exploit this mismatch, revealing how easily we conflate appearances with truth. Consider the arrow paradox. Though the arrow appears stationary at any given instant, its trajectory tells a different story. This tension between static snapshots and dynamic processes underscores the importance of adopting multiple perspectives when interpreting reality. Furthermore, Zeno's paradoxes challenge the completeness of logic itself. Logic provides a powerful framework for reasoning, but it relies on assumptions about the structure of reality. When those assumptions break down, as they do in cases involving infinity or discontinuity, logic struggles to maintain coherence. This raises troubling questions about whether our cognitive tools are equipped to grasp ultimate truths. Are there aspects of existence that lie forever beyond the reach of rational inquiry? Or does the failure of logic signal the need for new paradigms altogether? On a personal level, Zeno's paradoxes invite introspection about goals and progress. Much like Achilles chasing the tortoise, we often feel trapped in cycles of effort and delay, wondering if we'll ever achieve our ambitions. Life itself can resemble an endless dichotomy. No matter how far we advance, there always seems to be another hurdle to overcome. Yet paradoxically, embracing this fragmentation can inspire patience and persistence. Each step, however small, contributes to the larger journey. Progress may not always be linear, but it remains meaningful. Finally, Zeno's paradoxes highlight the interplay between skepticism and wonder. By questioning the foundations of knowledge, they encourage humility and curiosity. Rather than dismissing unfamiliar concepts outright, we learn to entertain possibilities that defy conventional wisdom. This openness fosters creativity and innovation, driving humanity closer to answers, even if those answers sometimes lead to more questions. Zeno's insights remind us that progress can feel elusive, but what if history repeats endlessly, forcing us to relive the same moments over and over? Imagine waking up tomorrow only to discover that yesterday's triumphs and failures replay identically, without deviation. Would you embrace this eternal cycle, finding solace in its inevitability, or would you recoil from the prospect of infinite repetition? In the next segment, we'll explore the eternal return, a haunting philosophical hypothesis introduced by Friedrich Nietzsche. This concept challenges us to confront the weight of eternity and consider whether life gains meaning precisely because it recurs infinitely. Let the stillness settle. Is movement real or an illusion? As we turn our gaze to the eternal recurrence of moments, let the echoes of infinity guide your thoughts. The eternal return. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that the day unfolds exactly as it did yesterday. The same conversations, the same weather, the same fleeting emotions. At first glance, this might seem like déjà vu or a glitch in the fabric of time. But what if this pattern extended infinitely? What if every moment of your life, from birth to death, repeated endlessly without deviation? This is the essence of the eternal return, a haunting yet profound concept introduced by philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. It challenges us to confront the weight of eternity and consider whether our lives are worth reliving again and again, or whether the repetition would become unbearable. Nietzsche's idea of the eternal return isn't merely a thought experiment, it's an existential gauntlet thrown at humanity's feet. In his magnum opus, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he asks us to imagine a demon whispering in our ear, "This life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more." Every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, and every failure would recur endlessly, identical in every detail. Faced with this prospect, Nietzsche invites us to ask ourselves, would we embrace it with gratitude or recoil in despair? The eternal return serves as both a mirror and a crucible, reflecting the depth of our attachment to life while testing our capacity for acceptance. If existence were infinite and cyclical, how would we choose to live? Would we cherish each moment as sacred, knowing it would return eternally? Or would the inevitability of suffering render the cycle unbearable? These questions force us to grapple not only with the meaning of our lives but also with the nature of time itself. To fully appreciate the implications of the eternal return, we must delve into its philosophical underpinnings. Nietzsche conceived of the eternal return not as a literal description of reality, though some interpretations suggest otherwise, but as a heuristic device designed to provoke radical self-reflection. By imagining that every action, decision, and experience recurs infinitely, we are compelled to evaluate the quality of our lives. Are they filled with moments we'd willingly endure forever, or are they marred by choices we'd prefer to escape? At its core, the eternal return challenges linear notions of time. Most cultures conceive of time as a river flowing steadily forward, carrying us from past to future. Yet Nietzsche's vision subverts this assumption, proposing instead a circular model where events repeat ad infinitum. This cyclical view has echoes in ancient traditions such as Hinduism and Buddhism, which posit samsara, a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth driven by karma. However, Nietzsche's formulation differs in its emphasis on individual agency. Rather than attributing recurrence to divine will or cosmic law, he frames it as a personal reckoning. How do you respond to the possibility that your life, exactly as it is, will replay endlessly? Modern physics offers intriguing parallels to Nietzsche's idea. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics and cosmology suggest that the universe may undergo endless cycles of expansion and contraction, known as oscillatory models of the cosmos. Similarly, string theory posits the existence of multiverses governed by probabilistic outcomes, raising the specter of infinite repetitions across different timelines. While these scientific frameworks remain speculative, they lend credibility to the notion that time, and perhaps even human experience, might operate in loops rather than straight lines. Yet the true power of the eternal return lies not in its potential alignment with science but in its psychological impact. By forcing us to imagine living the same life over and over, it strips away distractions and forces us to focus on what truly matters. If every moment carries infinite significance because it will recur eternally, then even mundane actions take on heightened importance. Conversely, the prospect of enduring suffering repeatedly can feel crushing, highlighting the fragility of human resilience. The implications of the eternal return ripple outward, touching nearly every aspect of human existence. At its most optimistic, the concept encourages mindfulness, gratitude, and a commitment to living authentically. At its darkest, it threatens to crush the spirit with the weight of unending repetition. Let's explore both sides of this dichotomy. On one hand, the eternal return can inspire a profound sense of purpose. Knowing that every moment holds eternal significance might motivate us to savor life more deeply, cultivating presence and intentionality. Imagine approaching each interaction, each task, each breath as though it mattered infinitely, not just for yourself but for the entire cosmos. This perspective fosters a kind of radical acceptance, where even hardships are embraced as integral parts of the whole. Suffering loses its sting when viewed through the lens of eternity, becoming a necessary counterpoint to joy. In this light, the eternal return transforms life into a masterpiece, each stroke contributing to the grand design. Consider, too, the ethical dimensions of the eternal return. If every choice you make will be made again and again, wouldn't you strive to act with greater compassion, integrity, and wisdom? The knowledge that your actions echo infinitely could inspire a heightened moral consciousness, driving you toward kindness and accountability. Nietzsche himself believed that embracing the eternal return required saying an unconditional yes to life, a declaration of love for all its beauty and pain alike. However, the flip side of this coin is far less forgiving. For many, the prospect of reliving their lives verbatim evokes existential dread. Think about the mistakes you've made, the regrets you carry, the moments of anguish that linger in your memory. Now imagine facing them not once, not twice, but infinitely. Could anyone bear such a burden without succumbing to despair? The inevitability of suffering becomes overwhelming when stripped of any hope for resolution or redemption. Even pleasures lose their luster when robbed of novelty. After countless iterations, wouldn't the thrill of discovery fade into monotony? Moreover, the eternal return raises uncomfortable questions about free will. If every event recurs identically, does this imply determinism, an unyielding script written before the first loop began? Or does consciousness allow for variation within the cycle, creating opportunities for growth and transformation? These uncertainties blur the line between fate and autonomy, leaving us suspended between resignation and rebellion. Finally, the eternal return invites reflection on legacy and mortality. Traditional views of death offer closure, a definitive endpoint that gives shape and meaning to life. But in a universe where nothing ever ends, how do we define achievement or fulfillment? Is legacy meaningless if no one remembers it beyond the next iteration? Or does the act of creating something beautiful, however fleeting, acquire deeper resonance when multiplied infinitely? As we conclude this journey through existential nightmares, let us pause to reflect on what these ideas reveal about the human condition. From the infinite hotel paradox to the eternal return, we've traversed landscapes of infinity, impermanence, morality, and meaning. Each segment has challenged us to expand our understanding of reality, pushing the boundaries of logic, emotion, and imagination. And yet, for all the intellectual rigor they demand, these concepts ultimately point to something simpler, the quiet spaces between thoughts, where wonder and uncertainty coexist. Perhaps the answers lie not in certainty but in openness, in the willingness to sit with ambiguity and let it teach us. After all, existence itself defies easy explanation. Why does anything exist at all? Why are we here, grappling with questions that may never yield definitive solutions. Instead of seeking resolution, maybe we should celebrate the mystery, the infinite possibilities contained within each moment. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, let the echoes of eternity lull you into rest. Feel the stillness settle around you, not as emptiness but as potential. Whether you dream of infinite loops, branching timelines, or silent voids, remember that life's beauty lies not in its answers but in its questions. Sleep well, dreamer. Tomorrow awaits, brimming with new horizons to explore. Drift away now. Let the echoes of eternity lull you into rest.